I never did pay you back for taking all my hard-earned pay, for wrapping my binoculars around my neck, chasing all my friends away, for handing out matches at my birthday party, putting gunpowder on my shoes, for telling me I'd never learn how to win when you were all that I had to lose.
Hello and welcome. I'm Helen Hocknell, and I'm pleased to be speaking with singer-songwriter Slim Stevens. Welcome, Slim.
Thank you.
So the producers have provided a list of questions for you.
Really?
Yes.
They didn't give me a list. Do you have a copy?
Let me see. Yes, I do. I have an extra.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
Shall we start from the top?
All right, you're the questioner.
What is your most recent memory?
My most recent memory was the fun of seeing the producer count us down and having you look in the camera and say hello.
What is your worst memory?
My worst memory.
Hopefully not the same one.
It wasn't the same one. My worst memory, well, actually, I went to India to find myself, and I wasn't there.
Oh dear. What are your earliest memories?
Earliest, I was born in England, and preschool, one morning, first day, my mom had me dressed in this little snowsuit or a suit to keep you warm, and she put me out in the front step, and she was closing the door, and on this front step with us was the window washing man who had a big bucket, not as big as this, but pretty big silver bucket full of hot water. And little me backed up and sat down right in the bucket and got yanked out by my mother. Luckily, with all the padding, it didn't burn me or anything like that. So that's one of my English memories. The other English memory I have is having been put to bed and having a partition between my sister and me as we lay there and my mother sang to us. So that's all I can remember from England. After England, the next place I lived was Syracuse, New York. And in Syracuse, I can remember Wednesday night was Mickey Mouse Club night at 7 o'clock. And I can remember that very well. And I remember being put on a bus to go to kindergarten, which kind of shocks me now. I think that was a little bit too advanced for me. My mom would take me down and put me on the public bus. She introduced me to the bus driver and blah, blah, blah. But I think I remember that because it was so scary.
And you would have been how old?
5. Then I remember in Syracuse going to bed and having my mother be sitting halfway between the room my sister was going to sleep in and then I was in, and her singing a song called Underneath My Window, which I'd never forgotten, but I've never heard anybody else sing it or know about it. So I've always been interested to find out if Underneath My Window is a old classic. I'm not sure. And the other was Baby Owlet, which I guess is an old Girl Scout song. Baby owlet, purple owlet, singing at the break of day. Baby owlet, purple owlet, singing at the break of day. Till your wings are strong and steady, till your wings are strong and steady, till your wings are strong and steady, safely in my nest you'll stay. Safely in my nest you'll stay. The last memory I have from Syracuse was sort of a self-preservation memory. My parents brought my sister and me home for leave the year before, and we went to Seattle, Washington, and we went to Whidbey Island where my grandfather had a cottage. And that was home for my mother because when she was a little girl, every summer they would go to the Whidbey Island cottage. My grandfather was a camp counselor for the YMCA, and so I was always surrounded by young people. And when they got to Whidbey Island, my mother announced that she wasn't going to go back to England. And the implication was neither were her children. So there was a very difficult set of things going on between the grown-ups, which my sister and I were aware of. And we remember taking the rowboat from the cottage to the ferry landing. There wasn't a road. What you would do is you would get off the ferry, and then you take a rowboat to your house on the water. So when my father was getting ready to go back to England, his suitcases were loaded up. My sister and I were put in the boat, and my mother and I, my sister and I sat there. And on the way back, my mother said, now if the boat tips over, just hold on. And it was kind of rough. It was like it's ocean water, more or less, pretty rough sound. And emotionally, I think what was going on was we were feeling her tension and the overriding scaredness of the situation on that boat ride. And the end of that boat ride for us was ending up in Syracuse. My father was back in England, where he worked for the American Embassy. And that leads to the last memory I have from Syracuse, which is standing behind a car and grabbing my father's leg and holding on to it. And it's funny, I always had that image. And years later, my father told me that he had come back to the United States and driven up to see his wife and kids in Syracuse. And he said his little boy grabbed his leg and held it so tight, he knew he could never leave his children. So that was interesting that for him, that was a very significant, both of those events, the boat ride and the back of the car, are significant. And I guess that in my mind, that satisfies the theorem. You know this theorem, right? That children know everything. So that emotionally, I think those children, my sister and me, understood everything.
Okay, let's watch the video of Who Is That Boy?
Who is that boy opening the car door? Who is this man watching him go? He looks back one time and waves to his father. Did you say this happened long ago? He sees an angel through a door inside a bed of glass and smashes in to try to set her free. He sees her slipping through the floor into her father's grass. Did you say this happened to me? Who is that bride with a train of white flowers? Who is that man dragging her away? Why won't she fight as he locks her in the tower? Wasn't this to be her wedding day? He drives to the mountain and plays before a crowd and wonders if they came alone like him. His words are forgotten before they reach the clouds. He wonders if he'll disappear like them. this man in the rear view mirror? Is he still waiting for the magic to begin? Why does he watch as the boy disappears? Why can't he go along with him? Did I hear a voice just now whisper from the past? Did you say I love you anyhow? Did I see a face just now? Is it you at last? Did you say we'll make it somehow?
Are you still waiting for the magic to begin?
Am I still waiting? Is that what that says? That's a good producer you have there. Am I still waiting for the magic to begin? No, because I did go along with him. You know, the song says, why can't he go along with him? Which is the father in the song asking why he can't go along with his son. And in one sense, I guess that means, why can't you be a child with your son, you know? But I did go along with my son. So I'm not waiting for the magic to begin. I guess in the sense I went along with my son the way my dad went along with me. In other words, he stayed, I stayed. The voices in that song, I think, are the voices of my dead parents, both dead now, which of course gives me freedom to ruminate without, rusticate? No, ruminate without prevaricate.
Without risk.
It's got a rhyme. It allows me to ruminate without extirpate. How's that? Ruminate without castigate. There it is. Well, anyway, God bless them. I'm not going to hurt them by my analysis. And I think they tried, I think that's what the song was asking. Did you hear a voice just now whisper from the past? They tried, even though they were isolated. We hurt the little boy, we encroached on the little girl, but we're still on your side. We tried. My mother, as I've said before, was a goddess. A goddess in a very bad mood. She was a goddess in a very bad mood. I can remember my dad saying, honey, well, he wouldn't have even said honey, actually, he would have said Betty. Betty, we disagree about everything. And she said, no, we don't. But you know the story, a normal family is the one no one's ever seen. So with that idea, hey, you got more questions in here? Oh my gosh. But in the song, to me, isolation is a choice. I remember someone told me just a few months ago that we choose to worry, the theory that we choose to worry. I like that. It was a good, because when I'm worrying, I'm worrying. I'm worried. I'm worrying. I'm worried. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. Yeah, I'm worrying. And it's never, you take a step up and say, well, on some level, are you choosing to worry? Isolation is the same way for me. In other words, I feel isolated. Now, I don't know why I feel, everybody feels isolated in different ways, but is it related, nature or nurture? Is it related to my childhood that I feel isolated? Something that happened to me? Is it genetic? I think it's, but I've watched myself driving home sometimes and feeling isolated. And then a little voice says, well, why don't you call one of your kids or one of your friends? And another voice says, well, I'm sort of more comfortable feeling isolated. So it's like, So the song is saying, where is my son? and it sort of transforms into, here is my son. So for me personally, I didn't lose my son the way I think my father felt he lost his. That was a long answer, but that's what I think.
Can you tell me more? What more do you remember about your childhood and?
Well, my next memories. Can you say unique New York 3 times?
I could try. Unique New York, unique oh, no. Not a chance.
Watch this. Unique New York, unique New York. All right. Well, my next memories are from unique New York. And the first one I have, funnily enough, is driving in the 51 Chevy, which my father, at the American Embassy, we imported a 51 Chevy into London. And in post-war 51 London, 53 London, a 51 Chevy was quite a thing. And we had, in England, believe it or not, back then they had this idea of your turn signal was not a flashing light. Maybe because they didn't have flashing lights at some point, but it was a little window that opened. And they made, in order to import the 51 Chevy, they made my father retrofit the car with these little flashers, little yellow things that would flip up.
Was the steering wheel on the?
And no, it was on the wrong side. It was on the non-British side, for sure. So, the 51 Chevy, we're sitting in it, and I didn't realize why I remembered this so well, but as we're approaching this house, my mother is saying, "Is that Spanish maple on the property?" And the realtor says, "No, it isn't." And again, that's another example of children knowing everything, because at some point I figured out that was the moment that my father was taking the 3 of us to see the house that he had selected that they were going to move into together, no longer be separated, in Manhasset, Long Island, New York, which turned out to be one of the tobacco houses. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, who made a fortune in the tobacco business, and he built 6 or 7 Spanish-style mansions. I mean, they were big houses, and built them in Manhasset, Long Island, New York. And this was one of them. And so the reason I remembered it is because I knew how important it was that my mother would be pleased, or was she going to run my father down, criticize him, and refuse to move in, I guess. So that's why is that Spanish maple on our property? And it wasn't. But we moved into the house, so apparently it didn't. My mother didn't say, "Keep driving, don't bother, don't bother, keep driving." But across the street was Brandy, the German Shepherd, and so that was the earliest terror of my life from Manhasset that I remember. But up the street was the Planum Road Elementary School with the first grade swings, and Bobby Hoffman and I would meet before school, sometimes half an hour before school, and just swing and swing and swing on those swings, and we enjoyed that. We also had Miss Farnham together. Miss Farnham, you've heard of Miss Farnham, the first grade teacher? You have? First and second grade. We had the same teacher for first and second grade, and we used to go out and make murals in the hallway. And I can't remember who discovered it first, but we had learned about dirty words. Oh. So we would play the mural and say dirty words and just giggle and giggle and giggle and giggle.
Did you know what any of them meant?
How
old were you?
What is that, 6 by then?
Yeah.
You know, I was reading where now they can give you a memory, that they've been testing what we really remember, and they've done some incredible tests where they'll actually make you believe you're remembering something that didn't happen. So it's very, and then also they've tried to figure out why we can't remember more. I mean, I'm just amazed at what I can't remember, you know, and the reason I think is because the cells get recycled. That's the best I can think of. On the Manhasset house, there was a beech tree. A beech tree, I don't even know. if you asked me if I knew any names of trees, I would say no. But actually, I do know. Spanish maple, I know what that looks like for obvious reasons. And I know what a beech tree is. It's just got lots and lots of branches. And so even as a little guy, I found sort of peace up in that beech tree. And years later, I was asked, actually in group therapy. Group therapy is like a whole group sits there with a leader who sort of encourages the people to, by how they interact, to learn about themselves. And I remember being asked to conjure up a place of safety. And the two places of safety I conjured up was, one was next to the garage at that house, between the hedges, and the other was up a ways in the beech tree. So I'm thinking that those two places symbolized refuge from the possibility of my mother's anger. My mother was, I would say, abash and lavish, so that she had a quick, explosive temper. Whether it was red-headed being some of the Carmichael Scottish, I don't know, or maybe the German Cole, maybe the good old English anger, maybe it's just pre-programmed or learned. But I can remember those two places as maybe refuge in that sense. And I think that's why I ended up at the foot of the driveway with a stick. There was tar, in the separation of roads, they would use hot tar to fill the cracks. So you could get in Manhasset, Long Island, New York, the sun was hot. So you'd get a stick and you'd roll tar on it, and now you have a little tom-tom kind of thing. And there were big black ants in Manhasset. And I killed a lot of ants with a tar tomahawk. And thinking back, that might have been some kind of revenge theory going on inside of me. And I think that might be one of the reasons that I would go to sleep looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right.
Okay, this is probably a good time to watch Invisible River.
Okay, over here.
I watch you paddle this invisible river's run. It's Sunday morning, you are my 7-year son. I want to tell you just where I've come from. These words will find you if someday I cannot come. One more life for Mario, a trusty bike in space. Touchdown pass, karate chops, second grade girls to chase. 3-point shots, fear of the dark, safe at second base. New wheels on your rollerblades, would you like to race? I was a little boy on Heartache Summit Drive. I sat alone on the curb away from the giant inside. I killed ants with tar tomahawks, like me they could not hide. Too scared to go back in and tell her, pick on someone your own size. My father's lonely fantasy that politics could save. Peace on earth, goodwill to men, just a paragraph away. While he idolized humanity, we fixed a fallout shelter cave. I waited after every siren for the last crashing wave. They sent us home from school on a bright November day. I rode to the station with my mother to meet my father's train. We sat in a Chinese restaurant, wondering who was to blame. His fantasy died before my eyes when they shot JFK. My sister and I one summer heard a different tongue. voices that dissented in a Camp Unitarian. Bob Dylan's voice cried out to me, "You're old enough to run." Agnostic patron saint and his prophet-driven son. Die the day of the divorce, or was it dead already from all the dyings that went before? A file cabinet from my dad replaced the room I had no more. A Bible from my sister as we stumbled out the door. Then a boarding school with two things I'd requested: football and girls, plus some sadists I detested. Mike and Bob, Dolly, Peter and John were the home I'd never had. I knew she really loved me. Why did that make me so sad? There were some teachers there who challenged me to learn, but I found other classrooms with grades easier to earn. Dylan cried over and over, "How does it feel?" But I had no idea. In the Ivy League, maybe I turned real. Chameleon college freshman, I climbed on every rock. Telescopes, dissections, just whatever they had in stock. From wandering privileged orphans, little green leaves that talk. I marched against the war, but my own war couldn't stop. Whose misery reminded me of me. I held her with my left hand, with my right I set her free. Board chairman raised police salaries to put my friends in jail for selling their drug of choice while they bought theirs on sale. My loneliness exploded. I dropped my stick and left the game, never even imagining that the past was to blame. I canceled my audition with the professor of power and fame. I got a passport with extra pages and got on a plane. After many millennia, I really can't tell you much. The sky doesn't end, but the ends don't seem to touch. A box of names and photographs is all I have to pass, of a million generations before us in the grass. Don't fight the contradictions. You can fit in all your stuff. Your heart needs sadness, and we'll find it in love. Do not try to fight this. Don't take it all too rough. Forgive her 1,000 times if 100's not enough. zodiacal dust, your soul and the Milky Way. I've become a man, and my curbside dream came true. I had a happy childhood, the one I've had with you. Last night you told me no one can answer this. Who came before God? But you know why we exist. God got tired and gave Adam and Eve a turn. But who can answer this? Will Eve ever return? Someday you'll think of me when I'm out of reach. You'll see this blue canoe that you're steering to the beach. You'll know I'm watching you, you can always talk to me. And when you have your little boy, this river you will see. One more life for Mario, a trusty bike in space. Touchdown pass, karate chops, second grade girls to chase. 3-point shots, fear of the dark, safe at second base. New wheels on your rollerblades, would you like to race?
What does that mean, one more life for Mario?
Oh, one more life for Mario. Oh, you never saved the princess? It's one of the first Mario brothers. And my son, I'll never forget watching him sit up at night, it's a video game, sitting on the couch, just working so hard. You know, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, he is working so hard, getting to a new level. You know, you push a button and you get to this, and you got to think of this, and you got to be ready for this. Oh my goodness. And I was so proud of the concentration that he did. It just was cool. And he found out from one of his friends at school that there was a kid at the what'd they call it? The video game store. There was a video game store where you could go in. You didn't buy the video game, but you could buy an hour of time and play whatever game you wanted. There was a kid there that knew the secret codes to make Mario invincible. You know what that meant? Ooh. That meant the only way Mario could die was by falling. He couldn't. Bowser, who was like they were dragons that would kill you. Excuse me if they aren't dragons, but I think they were dragons. So Bowser, once you had the secret code, couldn't kill you. The only way you could die is by falling, and of course you could each level you could die like 1,000 different ways by falling, I guess. So we drove to this guy's house, and he gave us this list, maybe 45 numbers and letters, and we came home and put it in our system, and all of a sudden Mario became invincible and defeated the last Bowser and freed the princess. So that has nothing to do with my childhood, but had to do with his.
Did you have a trusty bike in space?
Yes, I have always had a trustee's bike in space. In England, there are pictures of me on my three-wheelers, and when I got to Manhasset on my tricycle, I got permission to ride all the way to the A&P because it was on the sidewalk on Summit Drive. You could go all the way around a little cul-de-sac and but you could get there completely. So that was pretty exciting for me to go all the way to the A&P on my trusty bike.
3-point shots?
That's also, obviously, you a basketball fan? They didn't have three-point shots when I was growing up.
Really?
No. Didn't know that, huh?
I didn't know that.
We didn't even have TV remotes. Did you know that?
That I knew.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can think of some other things we didn't have. So that's a modern artifact but that was a big part of my kids' lives, three-point shots.
Fear of the dark?
Oh, three-point shots, fear of the dark. Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of going back what I was saying before, that fear of the dark.
Why do you call it Heartache Summit Drive?
Yeah, I was a little boy on Heartache Summit Drive. Well, I was Summit Drive, so I had the one who made it Heartache Summit. Play of words there, I guess. You know, all I had, and it says, too scared to go back in and tell her, pick on someone your own size. Ooh, you know, when I wrote that, well, I guess there really isn't much cover. So I guess I can be glad that my mom never heard that line. But I was saying the truth. And all I had back then, I did have my Fanner 50. You know what a Fanner 50 is? Where have you been? Okay, a Fanner 50 is this play gun, and you would fan it, meaning you could go pow, pop, pop, pop. It would shoot the cap off. So, you know, when this guy's shooting me like this, bang, I could shoot back at him, bang, 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 bang. That was a Fanner 50. I'll have to go check and see if, I'm sure in the toy sites there is such a thing. But that was that.
How do you kill an ant with a tar tomahawk?
Oh, right, okay, that's what I was saying before. Like this. Big black ant. Yeah.
Was that you trying to lash out at something?
Yeah, I would think so. Like I was saying before, some kind of revenge fantasy, right?
Were you safe at second base?
Safe at second base. Fear of the dark. Was it second grade girls to chase? Safe at second base. Yeah, I was safe at second base a lot. And that was a big part of my life. You know, baseball was so big. Kickball. Did you ever play kickball? Mm-hmm. Fun, huh? Did you roll it to pitch?
No, I'd played soccer, so I was the one kicking usually.
Oh, but the pitcher pitches in kickball.
Mm-hmm.
You would roll it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of kickball. Boy, oh boy. The Plandom Road Elementary School, the yard was divided, first and second grade, third and fourth grade. So we would have our kickball games, and that's pretty important whether you're safe at second base, right? And I was a pretty angry kid too. I mean, I would do a lot of bluster and arguing about whether, you know, we had tremendous arguments about us boys about, I guess that's learning to mediate disputes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was safe at second base a lot.
Did you have second grade girls to chase?
Oh, well, of course there was Debbie Christensen. You've heard of Debbie Christensen?
No.
No? Mm-hmm. With the braids? I used to beg my mom to have Debbie Christensen come over. And the best thing about having, well, aside from just loving her, we're like two little puppies. We just chase and roll around each other and just play. But she came with braids. And the nice thing about a braid is if you want to go over here and she wants to go over there, you can sort of win the argument by grabbing the bridle and going over here, you know?
It's a little tougher as an adult, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know how.
How old was she?
That was first grade.
That was first grade.
And second grade.
And second.
Second grade girl to chase. And then another second grade girl I chased. Oh, we had the second grade class play. And I had the lead, of course. And Linda Story. You've heard of Linda Story?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, she was gorgeous. And she had the female lead. So, if I didn't have this thing on, oh my gosh, I'm so tempted. Oh my God, I'm tempted. Should I do it? No, I won't. I don't know you well enough, but I'll describe it, okay?
All right.
The scene was Linda was sitting at the kitchen table, and I came home from work. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to come in, say hello, and sit at the table.
Honey, I'm home, and okay.
I walk in, I walk up to Linda, I lean over to her, I take her hand in my head like this. We planned this whole plan thing. I went like this, put my thumbs right over our lips, leaned over, and kissed my thumbs. Oh my God, the third and fourth grade, I mean, it was like up, I think it was the first through fourth. Oh my Lord, and we already knew we couldn't get in trouble, because what did we do? It was like my son got in trouble for, on the bus, saying, "Are you knucking futs?" Come on, were you an assistant principal?
No.
Okay,
But
pretend you were. What do you
but
do
I was
with
a
that?
teacher, remember?
Oh, I forgot. Okay, you're a teacher. All right, what do you do with that?
Well, they didn't say anything.
That's the way Linda's story and I felt too. Oh my gosh, that was the first exciting scandal that I was part of, and oh my gosh, that was fun. Of course, it was also fun to get that close to Linda and get that close to kissing her. You know.
What was the scandal more with the adults or the children who'd seen it?
There was a little of each, you know,
Yep.
but I was I always had a good way. I'm not even going to say that. Let's just say it was beneficial for me to get an early start for the limits of desire and discretion. Is that good? Should I write that down? All right.
Fair enough.
Sorry. All right.
That should go in a lyric sometime. Why is the river invisible?
Invisible river. Well, it wasn't visible. It was just invisible to him, the 7-year-old boy, you know. To me, I could see him on the river and knew he would see it sometime himself. You know, when I was on the river, I didn't see it either. You know, I was busy being, you ever heard of Mo, Larry, and Curly?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Of course.
Excuse me, I don't know what persists and what doesn't. Officer Joe Bolton was the host of the Three Stooges. He would come on and say, "Hello, kids." This was like at 4:30 or something. "We're back here. It's Officer Joe Bolton." He was wearing his police officer outfit. "I'm back, and tonight we're going to see a great session of your favorite the Three Stooges." And so he would introduce the show, moderate it. So Ricky Piggott, Steve Witherspoon, and I, we pretended to be Mo, Larry, and Curly. And Ricky was able to be Curly. Everyone wanted to be Curly because Curly would go, whoop, 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 whoop. And when I went, whoop, I can't. I used to be a boy soprano. I wish I had it. I peaked as a singer in 7th grade. So Ricky got to go, whoop, 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 whoop. And when I would go, whoop, 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 want to hear that again? Reggie, my dog, that meant to Reggie it's time to play. So I would run and do that, and she would come and chase me.
What kind of dog?
A collie.
Collie.
So we wrote a letter to Officer Joe Bolton telling him that we liked the Three Stooges. And he wrote back. And did you ever do once, twice, thrice, shoot? 3 people want something. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know I was saying once, twice, thrice. I just thought I was saying once, twice, twice. I didn't know what it meant. Once, twice, thrice, you have to put out a 1 or a 2. So the odds are either the first time or the second time or the third time, someone's going to be a separate person. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and I got to keep Officer Joe Bolton's letter. And I still have it.
Wow.
About that time, too, I got to know Peter McNally. You've heard of Peter McNally. On Colonial Parkway? Anyway, next to Summit Drive, if you cut through the woods, was Colonial Parkway, which was a road to nowhere. And it was built like, somehow the zoning plans changed, so it was like this big, long, endless, straight highway. Didn't go anywhere. I mean, it went at one level, it had the A&P up here, but so it was safe. There was no traffic on it at all. It was just sort of our runway. And that's what we used to play a lot there on our bikes. But then we'd go down into his basement, and he had a basement that goes a circle. You know, the rooms make a circle. Mm-hmm. Dream, 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 dream. We used to dance to that. We used to dance to Splish Splash, I dropped back in the bath, all on a Saturday night. By dance, I mean run. We would just run. Charlie Brown, you're a clown. Yeah, Charlie Brown, you're gonna get caught. Just you wait and see. Why is everybody always picking on me? You haven't heard that before? I've never heard that one.
I'd heard that one.
Really?
Yeah.
How about yakety yak, don't come back? Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you, I thought,
I was born in the wrong generation music-wise.
well, you must have catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Oh my
They're
gosh.
still singing that one in schools.
You're kidding.
Oh, yeah.
To know him is to love him. Just to see him smile makes my life worthwhile. Not the lyricist of the quality that I came to admire with my hero Bob Dylan, but what the hell. There was a disabled kid who had a go-kart because he couldn't walk. And
Not a wheelchair, a go-kart.
Go-kart.
Wow.
And my parents put me on the top floor, which was very scary. And eventually I got them we had to rent out part of our house to a boarder to make it work financially. And the boarder lost one of his rooms because I begged my parents to not make me live on the top floor because I was scared up there. One morning, one middle of the night, I'm third grade, maybe fourth. Hey, I wake up. Hey, I look up. It's Peter McNally. Come on. What time is it? I don't know, maybe 3. Come on. Well, I did everything Peter McNally told me to do. So we didn't lock our house. He had come into and Reggie knew him, so there he was. We snuck down past my parents' door, past my sister's door, down, got my bike to go with his, and we rode up to Colonial Parkway, and we got in the go-kart, because the go-kart had a radio. And we sat in the go-kart. He was in front, me back, like the, like a real go-kart, 2-guy kart. And we listened to those songs. Then we went out on Colonial Parkway and we were flying up and down until a policeman found us and took us home. So we got in a little bit of trouble for that. But I was in a hurry, in everything I did, safe at second base or whatever. I still have the scars. I have 3 scars to show I was in a hurry. I have a scar on the left knee from flag football in 4th grade. And I have a scar here from a Coke bottle from running to find out if I could go to spend the night at Ricky Vosberg's house at Cub Scouts. And then from chasing my sister, I have a scar here because there would be these French doors and running to the French doors, and I was mad because they wouldn't play with me, and it sliced me up the arm. And last but not least, with Mignon Cater. You heard of Mignon Cater? Boy, oh boy. She was a feisty thing too. She kicked back at me and broke my thumb.
Ouch.
I can't say I didn't deserve it either.
What was your father's lonely fantasy?
Oh, my father's lonely fantasy that politics could save. Peace on earth, goodwill to men, just a paragraph away. Just a paragraph away. Just a paragraph away. That's sort of like, if we can just go over and give somebody a nice constitution and nice paperwork, and everything will be fine. Yeah, that's a great impulse, If he were here, he loved Jack Kennedy, and if he were here, I would challenge him, because Kennedy ran on a platform of that there was a missile gap, that we needed more intercontinental ballistic missiles. So my father thought that Kennedy was who knows? But my father loved Kennedy. I guess the point I'm making is my father saw Kennedy as a real advocate of helping the world survive. And looking back, he wasn't really as brave in a lot of ways. But in a lot of ways, compared to Eisenhower, I mean, Kennedy was incredibly brave. And my father loved Kennedy. On October 12th, 1960, he took me to Roosevelt Field on Long Island and put me on his shoulders. And that was just a few days before the election when Kennedy, when the torch was passed to a new generation from, and that was, of course, my father's generation too. And I saw him from a distance, giving his speech. And just a few nights later, we went to Manhasset. Was a very Republican town, so Kennedy probably got 12% of the vote or something. But there was a Democratic campaign headquarters on Plandome Road, and we went down on election night. And just like now, if there are early returns, if it's clear, but we had to go home because it was clear the election wasn't going to be decided that night. It wasn't decided till the next morning. Some people say it wasn't decided till Jack Kennedy's father made a call to the mayor of Chicago when they found some votes in Illinois. Because without Illinois, as I recall, he wouldn't have won. But we were walking to the car, or maybe walking home because it wasn't that far. And I don't want to go home, 10-year-old boy. I don't want to go home. I want to stay. I want to stay. We're not saying we're going, why? I want to stay. I want to stay. No, we're going home. I wish I was dead. Bam! Now my mother, I was used to her explosive anger, bash and lavish, although I can only remember 2 times she ever hit me or beat me, but I'm sure there were others. But for my father to do that was very out of character. He was like Mr. Gentle and understanding and empathetic. That made an impression on me. Years later, I realized that he was my father's lonely fantasy. In other words, it was important to him. I mean, we all know these people who like, and I want to put them down, people who live vicariously with the political events, you know. I visualize myself as being a little more practical. You know, I realize that, anyway, so, you know, and I'm not going to, although I might have tremendous admiration for this guy named Barry Obama, who just, incredible what he did, you know, but I still didn't, and I don't know, maybe, who knows, I'm just thinking about it now. Maybe I was as impressed with Barry Obama coming out of Hawaii as Bob Stevens was with Jack Kennedy coming out of rich kids' land in Boston. I'm not sure, but that was a hard one, being hit by him, and in retrospect I can see the impact it had on him. But I was more concerned, I think, with my mother's anger on a day-to-day level, and my mother's irrationality, and I think that's why I was spooked in a way. Did you ever see the movie Return of the Fly? No. Hey, I finally got you on something. Return of the Fly was a horror movie, and the bad guy made a machine. And if he put you in the machine with another animal, you would switch heads and come out. And he put the good guy who was knocked out, dragged him in the machine. Then he saw a fly buzzing around the room. And he caught the fly. And you know where he put it? In the machine. And he turned on the machine, and we hear, and then all of a sudden the scary music comes on, and out comes the guy with the head of a fly. All right. Meantime, we're running too. So we're all running out into the Manhasset Cinema. It's still there. I took my daughter, and we walked in. It's still there, which is amazing that anything is still anywhere. So that was the hauntedness. There was actually what we called a haunted house too. There was a house that near Kiki Higgins. You know Kiki Higgins. You know They didn't prepare you at all for this. Okay, so about 7 of us went to, we called it the haunted house. It was just an empty house. The house had an elevator, this is incredible, a working elevator, which, hello, on electricity, I guess. I guess there was electricity in the house, but it was an empty, vacant house.
That's not a liability at all.
We got in and we rode in the elevator. And I've thought so many times later about the article that I could see in the local paper saying, 7 skeletons, mystery solved, in other words,
Yeah.
3 or 4 months later or a year later, they finally found out what happened to the 7 Manhasset kids who got stuck in the elevator. But I had my own haunted house to deal with, which was occupied. And one of the things that haunted it was my mother put to sleep the family cat. So, looking back, people always minimize their own trauma, especially kids. In other words, well, I didn't feel bad. I wasn't scared. It wasn't that bad. Well, that's not a very motherly.
Was the cat sick?
The book on what happened was that my mother was just sick of the cat. Yeah, no. There was definitely no medical crisis for the cat, so it wasn't like one of those. We weren't the only people with family issues. Gary Crowther. You don't know Gary? You don't know Gary Crowther? I had a birthday party. I think it was my 10th, and Gary Crowther's station wagon pulls up with Gary and his mother in it, and it was one of those station wagons that had a wood panel side. And his mother got out, and Gary didn't want to come out of his car. So she pulled him out. Gary broke free and climbed under the car. So she reached down and tried to start pulling him out of the car. He's screaming he didn't want to come. Then she starts hitting him. So that's not what you would call empathetic parenting.
Did it make you feel a little less alone?
I guess so, but you're going to have fun or I'm going to. What is it? There'll be no shouting in this house.
The beatings will continue until morale improves. Is that
Very good, very good. All right, good. Yeah, those things come back to me as I think about thinking about Gary Crowther makes me think of the town hall pharmacy, because right across from the Plandome Road Elementary School was the town hall pharmacy, where at lunchtime for 50 cents you could get a hamburger and a Coke. And
you can't get just a soda for that anymore.
They were busy. They were very busy. And it occurred to me, I don't know who gave me the idea, but I think the idea was, I noticed they weren't paying any attention if you put your money down or whatever. But anyway, I left without paying. Isn't that funny? And I still remember that. But I was a regular little larcenist at the A&P. One day the man came up and told me, and it must have been McNally, to empty our pockets. We were just we were not very good what's it called? Shoplifters. But all that chocolate, all that candy, the chocolate, I think that's when just from the get-go, chocolate has been my most, I was going to say dangerous drug, but I'm a chocoholic. I'm a recovering chocoholic pretty strong. But unlike some of the other things I've given up, I've had relapses over the years with the chocolate. Instead of, I need that so much. The chocolate works so fast. And I can just whoa, and I know the pattern too. I know now, once I get on chocolate, it'll last, it could last 2 weeks. Because I know there's no way that tomorrow I'm going to be able to resist. It really carries over strong. So it takes such an act of power to break it.
And yet they call you Slim somehow.
Well, how I got the name Slim.
No.
Hey, fat boy! We called it chunky. What's the other word for it? Hefty. Husky. So, what's your name, fat boy? My name's Slim. I've been Slim ever since. So, how about that? But that was very, very easy. I also remember Town Hall Pharmacy. we would ride. My father on weekends would take a bike ride with my sister and me, which is pretty cool back then, and not your typical suburban Manhasset activity. And we would ride all the way to Port Washington and Carvel. Well, I mean, Port Washington, where they have a Carvel, which is a soft ice cream place. And that was fun. My dad was in a glee club. It's so funny. Years later, before he died, I talked to him about that. A glee club meaning they have glee clubs still?
Oh, yeah.
Singing.
There's a big television
Oh,
show.
that's what it means.
Yeah.
That's what glee means? I'm not, okay, I gotta tune in on that. So I reminded my dad that he was in a glee club. He had no memory that during my years growing up he had been in that.
So
And
your mother sang lullabies and your father was in a glee club. Where do you get your musical? Is it a little bit of everybody?
My mom couldn't hold a tune,
Really?
even though she would sing us those songs. She would sing them. Maybe that's why I learned them that way. Who knows? But yeah, it was definitely on my father's side, and I loved being a boy soprano in the Unitarian Church. I would sing solos, and I still think boy sopranos are really lovely voices. You know, it's just I wish I had it again. And then Miss Johan.
But you know what they say about Unitarian choirs.
Let's hear it.
Do you know why they're so terrible?
Why?
Because they're always reading ahead in the hymnal to see if they agree with the lyrics.
Very good. Well, that's right.
I can tell that joke because I am a Unitarian.
Real?
So.
You're kidding?
Yeah,
well, I was raised Unitarian. I guess I just
wasn't
told you
raised
that.
it, but I am.
You became one. Mm-hmm. Well, this peace, love, tie-dye, the doxology, which is from all that dwell below the skies, for the Unitarians is let peace and anyway, it's all peace and joy and tie-dye, and Jesus was a very wise man, or I think he was wise. I have to check, but interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, and then junior high school, Miss Johan picked me, which was very brave, to sing a solo in the seventh grade assembly or the concert, because it was like 5 weeks in advance, and voices change. You know, things were changing fast, especially since I was buying cigarettes at the Skyliner Diner with Alan Meinhold for 25 cents in the packet.
How old were you?
Meinhold, that's got to be
7th grade. You were smoking?
no younger than that. I think that's got to be 6th grade, because that's when Meinhold and I were dodgeball fanatics. The dodgeball. Oh, we just had you played dodgeball in a room. You know, you have to, and with a line in the middle. Is that how you played it? Yeah.
You can't play without getting bruised. It's
Yeah, and
just
if you catch the ball, the person who threw it is out.
Right.
Oh man, I miss dodgeball, and that was with Meinhold. Can't remember what Meinhold played, but also I wanted to play the violin. In 3rd grade or something, they tested us to see if we could la 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 la, and so if you could la 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 la, they'd say, oh, you should play the violin. And I remember asking, I wanted to play the violin. I was told no, I couldn't. I had to wait till the next year. But then
Too many violins that year?
Well, then I could play the trumpet.
Oh.
So then it went
You
trumpet.
didn't want to do the cello or?
No, it went trumpet, trombone. Of course, it's fun to have a trombone, especially if you like to poke people. Tuba.
Tuba.
And so I would line up for the Memorial Day parade with the other people carrying the sousaphone, you know, the big sousaphone that wraps around. And Mr. Brusloff liked me because I would follow him, so he would have something maybe. In the summer concert, half of us finished a measure ahead of the rest of them, you know, because Brusloff would say, it doesn't matter what's in the middle. Start right, finish right, that's all I remember. Poor guy. Can you imagine me? Oh, so anyway, we'd line up and march in the parade. And the fun thing on Summit Drive was all the fire trucks came and parked on Summit Drive, because that was their sort of staging area before the concert. And I was busy in that neighborhood because I was selling hot pot holders. Did you ever make hot pot? Do you know how to make a hot pot holder?
Oh yeah, with the.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's what I would do, and I'd sell them for 50 cents. And also,
Very industrious of you.
well, this is even better. I would sell grapefruit spoons, and you know what they had? Are you ready? Serrated edges.
Aha.
So I think that was part of the thing. I would knock on the door of the neighbors and try to sell them grapefruit spoons. And my big plug was...
Just one by one? Is that like here's one spoon?
I think you got a set. I can't remember. But they had serrated edges. And that was big. And then I got promoted to delivering the Manhasset Press. There were 2 papers. Can you believe it? 2 afternoon papers in Manhasset. Local. Manhasset Press and Manhasset Mail.
I bet they're not anymore.
Yeah, you know something about the newspaper business. One day, Mrs. Otruba called, and she said, "Are you sick?" And I said, "No." She says, "Oh, I was so worried about you, because I know my paper would be here if you weren't sick." And you know, I didn't figure out for years later that she was ragging me, that she was criticizing. Yeah. That was the most diplomatic. You know, may we all be so diplomatic. Never even occurred to me. And I was like, "Oh no, Mrs. Otruba." You know, I probably didn't tell her the truth. It's we were playing baseball or something, and I just hadn't got around to it yet. And Otruba was, little Jeff Otruba was my good friend, and we used to sit together at lunch. And one day I got home, and I said, "Mom, I lost my retainer." You know what a retainer is?
Mm-hmm, I had one.
Ooh, you lost your retainer? Yeah, I don't know where to lunch, because what I do is I take it out, put it on the tray. Come on. What? Come on. What do you mean? Come on. Where are we going? We're going to school. What do you mean? We're going to find your retainer. So we got there, and all the trash, there were like 8 bins on the side of the... That's my mother for you, boy.
I can't believe I can...
And then she wasn't cruel like you go through it. We were going through it. Good old mom. You know, I give my mom so much...
We're talking big bins? Like
yeah,
how many? Oh,
I give my mom so much grief. Well, not that big, but big. I give my mom so much grief. But there, and this is right at it. The first bag that we opened, there it was, my retainer. So that became like a, I guess that was an act of God.
Well, I got to tell you, I've done the exact same thing.
Did you have to go back too?
I did. I was in a summer drama camp in high school, and the cool kids, which I wanted to try and be one, would go over to the McDonald's for lunch rather than eating the sandwiches their parents brought them. And so we went over to the McDonald's, and of course I took my retainer out and had it on the tray, just like you were describing. And sure enough, I put the tray in the trash and then walked back and when I realized, oh no, where is it? And I didn't want to have to face my parents and explain I'd lost the retainer, so they're not cheap. So I went back and found it in the same way you did. I'll never forget it.
One day Peter McNally said to me, my father says your father is against our country. So what do you mean? Well, that's what he said. I said, why? He said, because he's a communist. And I said, no, Peter. I said my dad was an economist. I'll never forget that one. Oh, that's another true story. We had a tiled roof that McNally and I would go out on. When I look at that roof now and think how close I was to death, the Spanish tile, slick, wet,
just,
and I think the only reason we lived is because it was the southern exposure that we climbed out on it, so it didn't have moss and stuff on it. But it just...
What was the pitch of the...
It was strong, It was just steep. You don't climb out onto tile roofs on the 3rd floor.
It's amazing you survived your childhood.
Well, I guess everybody feels that way when they look back, Everyone look, I'm surprised that I made all those transitions, and that when I was in that room too, that made a big impression on me. McNally and I was also part of the group. We would go down to Johnny Gambling's yard. Johnny Gambling's dad was Rambling with Gambling. He was a radio show guy, and they had this huge lawn going down to the bay, and we would meet there and play tackle football. And Tad Williams and I were the 2 fullbacks always, because we were the big guys that would punch through, and so we were always on separate teams. And I can remember being on that lawn. It was also the lawn that Steve Kaiser and I would go pigeon hunting. We had whammo slingshots. Do you know what that is? Do you ever have one?
No.
they're powerful. And I guess that was the hunting urge that we were.
Did you hit him?
Yeah, we hit a lot. We hit a lot of pigeons. Unfortunately, hit a lot of pigeons. Oh my gosh.
The neighborhood cats must have loved you guys.
Well, I didn't go cats. I don't know.
No, I'm just saying the cats would have loved the.
On the pigeons. Yeah. One Christmas, there was sort of a truce in my family that on Christmas, I guess to say it, the parents would pretend to like each other or would not fight. And one Christmas, my mother had wanted a mixer. And when it came time for gifts, we're sitting there. My mother unwrapped my father's present, which was a bag with 942 pennies in it. And he said, "Oh, I think I found the mixer you want, but I'm not sure it's the one. But Right Hardware," yeah, Right Hardware, boy, I haven't thought of Right Hardware in a long time. Right Hardware has a mixer for $9.42. I hope it's the right one. This is the money you can buy it. What kind of person you are? That's disgusting. What a stupid gift. That's such an insult. So I remember realizing that she was going to denigrate him and run him down and break the truce. And I remember sitting there having that feeling, knowing that that was coming, and just staring out at the driveway, the foot of the driveway. Years later, I realized there was no window there. So I realized that what I was doing was fantasizing my way out. You know, you read about children who are really terrorized, how they develop extra personalities. So you might, for 95% of the time, you're fine. Mm-hmm. But then when something triggers you and it brings that awfulness.
You were imagining yourself out of the room.
Yeah, I thought, whoa.
It's a powerful urge to escape.
Yeah, so that was the bag of pennies.
With that background, let's watch Did She Just Split the Atom?
Oh, good time to watch that, huh?
Did she just split the atom? What a surprise. Another fit of passion beneath that disguise. Forgive me for laughing, but I just realized I should have stopped in heaven if this is paradise. Reach out your hand, take hold of your fate. There's a new land beyond that gate. You're still trying to cross over. You're still thinking that you can try to cross over. was the orphan who heard it prophesied. The king shall save the morning when the queen destroys the night. The prince shall take the forest, never knowing why. The star of the wanderer is burning in his eye. Reach out your hand, take hold of your fate. There's a new land beyond that gate. You're still trying to cross over. You're still thinking that you can try to cross over.
How did the king save the morning?
Oh, the father did. You know, he was married to a woman who was committed to running him down. And he just stayed even-keeled and cool and calm. We were out raking leaves, my dad and I, and all of a sudden, the room that was no longer mine on the top floor, because I had talked my way down a level, my father was writing his economist papers there.
Mm-hmm. His communist papers?
Yeah, his...
The Economist. Okay.
And all of a sudden, the window gets thrown open. You just keep, I don't care, what are you doing down there? I can't believe you would do that. And the papers, my mother is throwing the papers out from the third floor. So, you know, I guess that's what children do. You know, like children know everything, right? So I probably knew it was happening before he did, and so I love him so much for just staying even-keeled. You know, not fighting back, not insulting back. You know, look at turning the other cheek is sort of what that means. That's sort of the wisdom of that. Or you don't have to get, you don't have to catch the hand grenade. And that was a time I remember feeling for him. That was sort of like, maybe that was my first empathy, or the one, you know, because I felt so sorry for this gentle, loving man who just wanted to have things be okay. I'll never forget. Have you ever heard of hi ho hum? People say hi hum or ho hum. Ho hum is like ho hum. So there's hi ho hum. I guess that was Ohio. He was from Ohio. Maybe that was expression. So hi ho hum means hi ho hum. Things are okay. Hi ho hum thing. Hi ho hum, hi ho hum. Maybe that was an expression from his youth, but the message of a hi ho hum was, oh, here we are, it's okay. You'd say to a dog, hi ho, you know. And I remember him saying, hi-zy, ho-zy, humzy, which was sort of like baby talk. And I can understand it. Even sometimes I'll even resort with one of my kids to baby talk, because it's like, oh, you're my baby, you're my cute little baby. So I was in the living room, and he goes, hi-zy, ho-zy, humzy. And I hear from where she was standing, hi-zy, ho-zy, humzy, so that she had to ridicule him. And I guess the message being, don't pretend things are all right. You know, you're a terrible person.
So even his attempt to stay calm, she had to make an issue out of it.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. So there was like, oh my gosh. So that's what I remember, and just, I guess that's where I felt the empathy for him too.
And the prince takes the forest?
Never knowing why the star of the wanderer is burning in his eye. Yeah, whoa, right. Because I never would have told you, if you'd met me at 20 years old, a troubled person, If you'd said what's wrong, you never would have heard anything a word about my family. Not a word. I had no idea that the father is what does it say? The father is the child of the man? What does that mean? Or the child is the father of the man? Child is the father of the man. In other words, you become what your background was in a lot of ways. But I was completely blocked out on that. My family, my parents, they're just, no idea. So that's it. The prince takes to the forest, never knowing why. The star of the wanderer is burning in his eye. So you have to leave you want to leave a situation like that, and you do somehow, emotionally, or some other way. So, but then I was interested in things like the fourth grade All-Stars. All right, that was our softball team. Our fourth grade All-Stars got to play the fifth grade B team All-Stars. We beat them. Did you ever play softball? Then we played the I'll talk to you anyway. Then we played the fifth grade A team All-Stars. Guess what we did? We beat them. Yeah, we had Paul Wells.
That's a bit of an upset.
Come on, we had Paul Wells at third base. Bobby McDonald was pitching. Okay, Charlie Robeson was catching. I was playing second, or Steve Kaiser would sometimes play, or playing shortstop when he played shortstop. We had Tommy Allen at first base, all right? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. You know who we play next? The sixth grade B team.
You're kidding.
And Steve Kaiser wasn't there, so I was playing shortstop. And a lefty got up. Lefties usually pull it to this side, so I switched shortstop and went to second base. And the ball, I shouldn't even say this guy's name. I've said it in the past. I won't say it. And the poor kid, we switched him to shortstop. So the lefty hits it, though, to the left side, and it's a worm burner just going along the ground. And it goes right through this kid's legs. And that's how we lost against the sixth grade B team. So that's the kind of thing that I was interested in those ties, as well as going to dance class at the, what was it called? The Village Hall. The guys would have to walk over. The girls would sit there, the guys would there, the guys would have to get up, walk over, bow in front of a girl they wanted to dance with. And then we had this greatest teacher. We did the Lindy. Did you ever do the Lindy? Toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, back step. It's just, the Lindy is such a great dance. It's so easy. And much easier than foxtrot. And what else did we learn there? Oh, the cha-cha-cha. That was fun.
No tango, no waltz.
No tango, no waltz, and good for me, because as you can probably tell from listening to some of my songs, I can only count to 4. I can't count to 2, let alone 3 or anything else. 4 is just about my total limit. There was also during that period that at the 5 and 10 on Plandome Road, I wrote the immortal. It was my Stonehenge, my Taj Mahal, and it was there for years, where I wrote DS. I made a heart with DS and LB in it. You know what the LB was for, right? Laurie Burkett. Duh.
Oh, of course.
And Laurie Burkett. She was so brainy. She was very important in my life. Now looking back, in ways sometimes I didn't even realize. But the most important thing was, you know how to play a slap, kiss, and hug? You know, you are so lucky we're tethered to these things. So, because this is another one, you're just basically being saved. Slap, kiss, and hug. Let's suppose you're it, right?
Okay.
You're it. All your friends are out there. The whole party group's out there. I stand behind you. You don't know what symbol I make. Everyone's going to see it, but I'm either going to do a slap signal, a kiss signal, or a hug signal. So they'll say, okay, Helen, say a name. So you say Tommy.
Okay.
Say another, and then I make another symbol. You don't know which one. Say another name. You say Jimmy. Say another name, Peter. Okay. Then you turn around and say, okay, what? You got to slap Jimmy, hug Tommy, and kiss Peter. And of course, it didn't take long for Richard Ellis and Kiki Higgins to sort of beat the house in that game, because by the second game party, like Richard would have his friend go, kiss, 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 and he'd go, Kiki, 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 and then jump up and go kiss her 3 times. But the important thing is that we all knew everybody in Miss Robinson's class and Miss Robinson's class and the other fifth grader knew that we were going to start playing slap, kiss, and hug because we had heard somebody's older sibling, and obviously
Probably the sixth grade
all-star
softball
team. Yeah, the sixth grade B team. So that was pretty exciting. Friday night was the party, okay? But guess what? Lori Burkett was sick.
Oh.
So I went to this party, and this is like a biblical proportions. You know, I should be famous for this. I did not play slap, kiss, and hug because I wanted the first girl that I ever kissed on the lips to be Lori Burkett. Don't tell Linda's story. You remember Linda? Okay. But all was well. The next week, Lori recovered, and we must have, I guess we just kept playing until, I don't know how I managed to have her, I don't know, I'm going to have to call some of the guys and figure out how I got around, because by the rules, I would have had to kiss whoever
whoever they.
I don't know, I'm going to have to look into that. But I remember running by Lori's house. I went out to play football, and you had to be 100 pounds or less, and I was 102 pounds. And true to my name, fat boy, I had a little extra weight, and I figured I could lose it. And so for that week, I ran. And I remember running by her house as a target. You know, I don't know how many times, but that symbolized to me, I don't know what, you know, running for the damsel or whatever. That was also the place when I run down there. Steve Harris and I, you know who Steve Harris is, right? Steve Harris and I, we had the secret code. When we were going to go smoke my mother's Kent cigarettes, we'd say, "Do you want to have a ball?" I have a ball. And so Steve and I had our system. He came to the house, said, "You got them?" I go to my mother's purse and pull out 2 Kent cigarettes, and we were all ready to go. And my dad was raking the leaves when we go out. And he says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're going to go hit him out." Hit him out means play baseball. You know. He said, "Okay." He says, "Have a ball." Oh, we got around the corner. We just fell on the floor laughing because we were going to have a ball. And where we went to have a ball was down near the train tracks, and we go under the trestle where the trains go, and so you could, and we put pennies on the tracks. There was a third rail there too. Oh my gosh, when I think that a third rail is live. Mm-hmm. Anyway, put your pennies down, train comes by, where you smoke until the train comes by, then you go find your pennies. And that's what Stephen Harris and I did. He was brainy. He was also a Democrat, and every 2 years there were elections, and the Republicans had their headquarters on Plandome Road. And free bumper stickers, free buttons, what else was there? I guess that's all. So, boy, we just piled up all these bumper stickers. And I got to my room, which was still on the top floor, so that tells me something. I wonder what grade that means. And I put up my bumper stickers. My mother came home. We're not having those Republican bumper stickers up there, and she took them down. My father comes home, and even though he was a diehard Democrat, of course, he defended my right. Of course, I didn't, what the heck did I know about I wasn't doing it.
They were stickers to you.
Right. It was something fun to have. And I remember him defending me for that. And another friend who was there was Glenn Hosted. We used to go, in those days, we collect the bottles, and we get 2 cents for each bottle, so we could make like 30 cents in those days. 5 cents, a candy bar is 5 cents. That doesn't impress you, nothing.
Well, you said the burger and Coke was 50 cents, so you're getting there. That's.
Yeah, without a question. And it was then that I was in the barbershop quartet with Mr. Axtell. His first name was Fay. I don't know how they did it. It's just so cool. I mean, a lot of times I look back and I think some of the things that I had in school, like I didn't see my, I don't know. But nowadays I guess there are other cool things that we didn't have. But anyway, there were 4 of us in the barbershop quartet, and that was fun. And also we had in 5th grade, in those days the elementary school went to 6th, but we were going in the talent show. Charlie Robeson. Who's the other guy? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. I think it was Steve Harris. Anyway, we were going to sing. We were going to sing, right? It's what year is it? Anyway, we were going to sing Duke of Earl. which you've probably never heard of, but there's a Duke, 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 Duke of Earl, Duke, big hit. And there's a falsetto in the middle. Hold your ears. Do, do. Okay, it's like, Right. Anyway, I could do that like nobody else, okay? I knew that it was long before karaoke was even invented. I could just nail that. And that was another once, twice, thrice. And I won the solo, which only made sense, or to do the high part. I remember that, and it brings back memories to me. Then it was not too much longer than that they sent me home from school, sent us all home from school in November because President Kennedy had been shot. And I'll never forget at the reunion, I think the 25th high school reunion, Chris told me, I knew that must have been serious because you were so concerned. She said to me, and I was 13. You can do the math because November 22nd, I was 13, and I just turned 13. And obviously, since that was my father's hero, I was going home with some fear. You know, everyone was sort of upset the president's been shot and killed. But I found it interesting that I was her bellwether to know. I knew it must have been something serious, because you were so upset. I just watched the World Series baseball, Little League, and they're 13, and those guys are so adorable because they're just, they're men and they're boys, they're puppies, and they're just like it's just incredible, especially when you watch them being so good at something. They have an adult's skill, but they're still puppies. And I think about that's how old I was when I was going through that. And I was so honored to become the editor of the packet that our grade was going to prepare, or just our class was going to prepare, honoring the dead president. And part of that was to write the introduction. So I wrote the introduction, turned it in, and the packet went out to get mimeographed or whatever it's called then. And it came back, the student teacher was doing it, not the regular teacher. And the introduction wasn't mine. She ghost wrote it.
Oh.
Let's talk about, what is it, the doctors, they say, first do no harm,
She pulled the rug right out
Yeah,
front of you.
Stay home, If you stay home, you'd be better for the kids. Stay home.
Tell me about you and sailboats.
Oh boy, sailboats are very symbolic for me. I wanted a canoe when I got home from camp. My sister had been to, I guess, Girl Scout sailing camp. She wanted a sailboat.
What's the age difference?
She's 3 years older than I was.
She's 3 years older.
So we got a sailboat. Do the math, right? But it became the fact that with that unhappy family, getting a sailboat was an act of unity too for the family. We all united on getting something. And of course, if you've ever sailed and canoed, you realize that sailing is magic compared to canoeing because it's so magic. And it didn't take me long to get hooked. And David Gleason had his own sailboat down at the, what they call it? Can't remember. Plan Dome Yacht Club. Anyway, and he really sailed. We would heel over so much that we took water on. He knew how to. He was like, you see a skateboarder out there. He could ride a sailboat like a kid can ride a skateboard. Now, and I love that. And my sister and I went out together.
Where were you sailing?
Frequently.
Where is this?
Port Washington.
Port Washington, okay.
We went to, it was a big family event, another unity event that I can remember, like the Ringing Rocks. We went to Louis, and my dad had a strategy that we were going to be eating dinner at Louis and then asked to see Louis and ask him if he had any boat, what do you call it, you buoy, you could tie your boat up, you float
mooring?
your boat. Yeah, mooring, right. And so he thought that was pretty cool that he was going to be a customer asking. And sure enough, I don't know what he did, but we ended up getting a mooring, and so you row your own boat, you'd row their boat out to the mooring and then leave yours, and that was symbolic to me because I could do that by myself. And I remember getting caught in a squall, and coming back with putting the mainsail down and coming back just on the jib alone, because the wind was so heavy. And
What size sailboat are you?
that was the smallest boat, Blue Jay. It's like 13 and a half feet, 14 feet, I think. And I remember my dad had a friend that he worked with who was an avid sail racer in a Lightning, which is like 19 feet, I think. And they're all wood now. These are all wood boats, duh. And
Well, the expression, if God wanted us to have fiberglass boats, he would have made fiberglass trees. That's
oh, okay.
boats are
Very
supposed
good.
to be wooden, aren't they?
Well, Ashley Wright could have used a fiberglass tree because I wanted to do it. It was fun. His crew in a race, and I'll never forget this. It just blew my mind that you're supposed to have right of way and you're supposed to yield, and he didn't yield. No, but nothing happened. We're just going like full speed, and it wasn't dangerous, but it just it just really tore up the wood on the side of Ashley Wright's boat. And I was thinking to myself, was I supposed to do something? I knew I wasn't supposed. I'm the crew. You can see the guy right there. But I always felt, oh my gosh, what,
Could have been dangerous.
Well, it was expensive for sure to fix that boat, which makes a difference to me, as far as I can as I can see back. That was after I was thinking it was Peter McNally and I. Chubby Checker was they got a new dance and it goes like this. Wappa-doo-dah, wappa-bappa-doo-bah. The name of the dance is the peppermint twist. Wappa-doo-bah, wappa-bah, oh, wow, do the twist. You never done the twist? Oh my gosh.
Well, not the peppermint twist.
Oh, but you've done the twist.
Let's do the twist.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
sure.
Okay, so Chubby Checker, that was his one-hit wonder. And Peter McNally, whatever he said was fine with me. We got on the Long Island Railroad. We were going to the Peppermint Lounge. And we had a trick that when you get on the railroad and you keep jumping around the conductor. So in other words, you got on the train here, the conductor would come down for tickets here. And so with the conductor, you stopped at Great Neck or Bayside or whatever, as you stopped here, you jump out and run behind and get on the car back here, and then the conductor, who was heading us this way, wouldn't realize that he hadn't checked your ticket, that you didn't have one. So we got to the Peppermint Lounge and looked inside of it, but it was like 4 PM, and we didn't see Chubby Checker, who was the guy who organized the twist. It was also then when we went on our first bowling date, took Kiki, it was Charlie Robeson and I took Kiki Higgins and Lori Burkett bowling on a date, and survived, I might say, and we survived.
How old?
Oh my gosh, 6th grade maybe. It's also that time I can remember my father and mother, it was sitting at family dinner, Sunday dinner. So another idea of a truce being broken, in other words. And I think my dad could have, I wish he had had group therapy. I wish he had had somebody that told him, your children will learn if her behavior is toxic by whether it's toxic on you. In other words, her attacks of him, which were verbal, after all, she was still participating in the family. Okay, so it was sort of like she would say these things, and it's almost like, well, if you turn the other cheek or didn't hear them or didn't respond, but instead he would be like, I never forget, Betty, how can you say that in front of the children? That's when, I mean, he was sort of asking God, like sort of, whoa. So he was like, help.
It wasn't for him, but for you guys, for your sake.
Well, that's a projection, I guess. You'd think, oh my gosh. Whereas, of course, if he had just quietly, like he had done with when she was throwing the papers out, just persisted. So anyway, I remember that she was on him for something, and he was carving the roast, and he rolled it. Like, so it just sort of rolled over whatever the centerpiece, and ended up on the floor or something. So that was that was rolling the roast. I remember that. Rolling the roast.
When did your childhood first appear in a song?
Oh, When I started writing the songs, it was working on these things without realizing it, and I guess looking back, if you tried to get me into group therapy or even any kind of therapy at 25, I would have no. But the music, the songs was a therapy. I wish I had those songs now. I can't find them. I gave a concert at Harvard, which was recorded, and I don't know where it is anymore. I know somewhere in my stuff are a box of letters in my room. I now think about how they got in my room. I sometimes have to doubt. That was one of the lines, and that was when my parents got divorced. I was away at boarding school. My father had said, "Do you want to go away to boarding school for 10th, 11th, and 12th?" I was ready. He didn't tell me the part of the package, although he claims he did, that I actually delayed the divorce for a year. So I was working with two brains. Apparently at the time I was wheeling and dealing to keep the family together, but also in denial. Because as I remembered it, he basically said, "Do you want to go away to boarding school?" And that was fine with me. I said, as long as they have girls in football. I was ready for something new. I had been away to Unitarian summer camp, and I had done nine years in Manhasset, and I was ready for something new. And so I was very glad that he...
Where was the boarding school?
George School, a Quaker boarding school outside of Philadelphia. So I was really glad that happened. But the bad thing that happened during that year of denial was the house was up for sale, and so it was like sort of come back at Thanksgiving, I guess it was, and get your stuff and make sure. And I go up to my room, and the attic, one of the reasons I used to be so scared in that room is because there were two attic doors on either side. But in my room was a box of letters, which were the love letters, or courtship letters between the two of them, were left sitting in my room. I remember picking up one or two and seeing my father's idealism, But they were left there. So a lot of things going on here. With the symbolism of here's what's left. This is the corpse of the relationship, or and that was the first song, and I wrote about that scene in a song, and that's what I can remember of it. A box of letters in my old room. I now think about how they got in my room. I sometimes have to doubt. I know there are other things. I can't wait to. I'd love to hear those tapes of those songs, which were like my friend Bob Dylan. Some of them were 8 or 9, 12-minute songs, because they were telling the long story. But I wish. Oh my gosh! I wish I had found a place for those. I wish I had saved them. But that was very symbolic to me of what happened. The other scene was a scene I didn't even talk about. We were driving home on a family trip, another time, family unity, right? And this is another example of how can you talk that way in front of the children. She got him so upset that we were just 2 towns from home. It was like an evening, and he stopped to get out of the car. So he ordered her out of the car. Right there on Northern Boulevard in Little Neck. I mean, my emotion was, yeah, she deserved it. And now I wasn't saying, yeah, push her out, but I'm thinking she definitely deserved whatever. And he drove maybe half a mile and then went back, and she was like at a diner, or, and picked her up and went home. So that was also, I think, in the same song, that, and that was me trying to deal with it.
So the songwriting became a cathartic release for you, a way of processing it.
You ever heard the expression, there's only one show business? That's what they like to say. In other words, you ever heard of Marilyn Manson? Okay. You have?
Of course.
Oh, really? I didn't realize. I thought he was a little, didn't last that long. But anyway, I'll never forget, this wasn't that many years ago, but it was probably 30 or 20, listen to me, not many years ago, it's only 30. Oh boy, I'm glad I've got it this far. Anyway, when we come back, a shocking message from Marilyn Manson. But first, this word from Chevrolet. I thought to myself, there's only one show business. And what that means is you take somebody who's above it. Ravi Shankar, Bob Dylan, what's her name? You're above it. No, you're not. There's only one show business, and for these guys, you know, you can pretend you're a true artiste or whatever, you know, but it's just one. There's one show business. We're all in the show business together. We're all in show business together. You could argue that politics is a close. They're working on it. But some of the physicists have determined that actually politics is a subset of show business, but that's beyond my pay grade. So there's also only one no business. In other words, I wasn't writing these songs so they could be gift wrapped or shellac wrapped, or, you know, I wasn't. And to me, the giving of the concert at Harvard was like an emotional coming out, in a sense, because I was following the path of Dylan, who taught me that you could talk about pain and your own inadequacy and your own fear and be completely honest, and your relationships, and get attention for it too. So, you know, but I got the attention. There were just as many people there in the second half as there were. In other words, they came back at the intermission, but that was my no business. It wasn't. In other words, that was not business. I wasn't selling serrated spoons there, and I was trying to survive emotionally. But of course, I was trying to sell spoons in the sense as well. Hey, I want attention, you know. And if you look at what I'm doing now, performing or preserving what I got and what I came from, it sort of gets me from the no business into the show business, at least in the sense that, well, you know, I just said there's only one show business, so I have to jump in with Marilyn Manson, and I can't pretend not to be with him. Yeah, I never thought of it exactly that way before. But I wish I knew where. I mean, I'd love to hear that tape. I'd love to know. You know, I'd love to hear it again, and I'd love to be able to find them. I lived with I lived with a very mean woman for a while, and so I always have this fantasy. Of course, when you lose something, it's always, where'd you put that? You know, but I don't know where they are. They were in a box.
The
labeled.
early songs?
Yeah, and that concert tape.
Missing.
Of the endless songs, yeah.
Who was the mean woman here?
I still hope they'll show up. Well, I'm not going to go into that. But I still hope that the tapes will show up somewhere. That's for sure.
Well, maybe now is a good time to watch The Champagne of Innocence.
Oh, okay.
On the day that my childhood died in its chains, I stood by the prison, crying in shame. I threw down my dreams like a matchbook in flames, watched as my past disappeared in the fire. The anger I felt has now turned to trust. I ask no questions, I just do what I must. And the earth's last mystery leaves no tracks in the dust of those dead and dying I once loved. vein of innocence, I joined you to me. But the bottles that we drank from have drifted out to sea. And this loneliness I feel is all that's left of being free. But I'm ready for whatever it brings me. The anger I felt has now turned to trust. I ask no questions, I just do what I must. And the earth's last mystery leaves no tracks in the dust of those dead and dying I once loved.
Why were you crying in shame?
Why was I crying in shame? I know why. Because when you beat a child, the child thinks it's their fault. Also, experts tell us that when parents break up, children internalize that it's their fault somehow. They're programmed to sort of blame themselves to somehow. And I think that's why, you know, even though I stood by the prison, I was out of the prison, like the song says, but I was crying in shame. I don't believe in the shame now as an adult. Didn't deserve the shame at all, but I felt it. I think also when I said on the day that my childhood died in its chains, you know, it's fun for me to talk about my past because I realize, no, you know, my childhood didn't die in its chains. I had it, you know. It's like I've said to my own kids recently, you know, their childhood's over. I mean, it means it's over for me. I don't get to have all the fun of being part of their lives, but it's over for them too. It's not over as long ago as mine was. But mine is still, I still got mine. You know, I still have, or part of it anyway. When I went to the reunion and Chris Enquist, she's the one that was much more interested in the Beatles than I was. And icky, I'll never forget that. Everything was icky. If it was bad, they would say it was icky. Oh, that's icky. And they were interested in the Beatles, which really kind of annoyed me because I was kind of interested in Chris, and I thought it'd be more interesting if she was interested in me. And anyway, at the 25th reunion, she gave me back my ID bracelet. So in those days, if you're going steady with someone, you'd give them the ID bracelet with their name on it, with your name on it. That was pretty amazing. So Friday and Saturday, I'm just bragging and showing everybody. On Sunday brunch, she admitted that she went and bought one and put it in the dirt and got it all, you know, soaked it in something to make it look really old. And so it was like a practical joke, but it was also sweet, though. She remembered that well,
That's pretty funny.
I'm being recorded, so I won't tell you that I didn't even remember that I'd given her one. But even more important, I said to her, isn't it amazing? I said, you were so important to me, and we never even kissed. To which she said, this is a guide to the mental, the man's mind, if no one else's. Masculine, that's what I'm looking for, the masculine mind. To which she replied, you don't remember by the lake? So there's a good example. I would rather be isolated. Apparently, one of the things I regretted in life was I never got to kiss Chris Enquist. Oops, I've said her name. I had. But what was I attached to? The regret that I hadn't. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm taking it a little too far. But I remember we went to A Pocket Full of Miracles. They were playing a movie at the school, and so you could go, and she agreed to go with me, and the song was A Pocket Full of Miracles. I hate that song. I don't even know what the song, I shouldn't say I hate it. Anyway, I ran home. Her mom picked her up, took her home, but I ran home singing to myself over and over again, A Pocket Full of Miracles, which was feeling excited about Chris Enquist. Didn't kiss her, but I do remember putting my arm like sort of around her shoulder, you know, but not touching her, something like that. But I thought that was pretty exciting. I don't know, I also thought she liked Craig Rich. Craig Rich was the guy who beat me. We had a quarter mile, and I let him get ahead too early, but maybe he would have beat me anyway. But I'll never forget that, because Mr. Mueller said, "Good finish." You know, that I realized about halfway that I was really going to have to turn around if I was going to be able to catch him, and I couldn't. But I was closing. And Craig Rich is, of course, the one that gave Kiki Higgins a hickey on the ski trip school bus. You knew about that, didn't you? You didn't know that either?
More.
Oh yeah, boy. I think that's the whole. I think that's it. But that was big news, you know. That was that was big news. Then I was lucky enough to be close to Linda Williams. You do know about Linda Williams. She was elected 9th grade senator with me. There were 2 senators, and we both won. Looking back, that was my inauguration. You know, my father wanted to be Jack Kennedy, wanted me to be Jack Kennedy, maybe. I was Jack Kennedy. Right there, right in front of his eyes, without even knowing it. You know, that I was a politico. There I was, at the height of my power at Manhasset Junior High School, being elected class senator with Linda Williams, who was my date. And we danced together. That was it. I mean, we were we did it. It's kind of bizarre, you know, when you think about it. You have these fantasies about the adult world, but they're realized, maybe that's what the Little League is about too, you know, that they're realized in the children's world. And the children's world is, I never forget, I mean, when I was playing tennis, I used to realize that the emotions I was having and pushing myself, trying to win, trying to think, doing the best I could, those are the same emotions that our friend Roger Federer and Mr. Monfils were having just 2 days ago when Roger beat off 2 match points, you know. The emotions are the same, and I had that with Linda Williams, who also was connected, by the way, to the end of the 51 Chevy, because I begged my father. There's no way I could pick up Linda Williams in that 51 Chevy in that upper middle class town without tremendous shame, because you know you're only as good as what you're driving. You knew that, right?
Apparently.
Okay. And that's when my dad went and bought the Plymouth. And I felt my father's shame there too, because the guy said to my father was trying to make a bid, you know, offer to buy the car, and says, "I'll spend what I make my commission on this car. I'll spend at Peter Luger's." Peter Luger's was a steakhouse across the street. So then we go to Peter Luger's to let the guy cool off, hoping, I guess my father was making the guy think we had left to see if, you know, and then we'd walk back in, they'd decide they'd come down in price. But when we got to Peter Luger's and we opened the menu, it was really expensive. And in my family, we didn't go out very much because we didn't have a lot of money, even though we were in a middle class town. And I remember feeling like my parents sort of like, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I bet they thought because the guy was speaking so disparagingly about spending the commission, they didn't realize. Now, that could have all been projected by me. That was also right around the time when I got a call from Ricky Salmon to meet him at the Texaco station with Rusty Prutzman. And I did. I knew what I was getting into too, because the word was out. What Ricky would do is cars were left there to be serviced, and it was such a relaxed place, the keys were left in it. So Ricky would find one with the keys in it, get it, and go joyriding. We got in the back and we went joyriding with him. And I never forget that me thinking, if I get caught, can I still go away to school? And I was looking back thinking, I wonder if that was a wish to stay, you know, because if I get caught, I won't leave. If I don't leave, my parents won't get divorced, maybe. Who knows? I'm just trying to, you know, or if I won't leave, maybe I just didn't want to leave, period, because they didn't want to leave. Yeah, that was, but luckily, I guess luckily, we didn't get caught, and we got the car back without any further issue, I guess. That wasn't so bad. Well, joyriding. Later on, Ricky would take the cars up to the school at lunchtime, so he got in big, you know, he was acting out big time. I get, you know, you could think I was acting out a little bit too. Another way of acting out is Paul Wells and Dean Troutman Dean Troutman was the pitcher. I mean, he was probably could throw the ball 70, 80. I bet he could play 80. He was almost a man. He's ninth grader. And Paul Wells was the third baseman. You know, these are strong guys. We would throw, I'm going to say, ice balls at cars. You know, we could have killed people.
Yeah.
So I think that was an act of something.
Rebellion.
Yeah, I know. It was later, really, that it was like 10th and 11th grade that I got. No, it couldn't have been. It was 10th grade because the house was still there. My mother was wailing upstairs, and I didn't know why. And I made her tea and toast, and I went up to see her. And she was wailing, I'm sure, because she'd been so mean to my father, and they were getting divorced, and her life was sort of falling apart. But I didn't know that then, or I projected I didn't know it, or, you know. And how you doing? I can't remember what she said. And then she was wailing, and she liked the toast and everything. She said, and one of the things I worry about is you're getting too close with so-and-so. I won't say her name. And I worried about that. And I knew what she meant. She was afraid maybe I was sleeping with her. And I said, you know, and so, you know, she was worried about that. And I thought to myself, well, here's something that I can help my mother with. You know, I can't help with the problems. And I said, Mom, if it would make you feel better, I want you to know I haven't slept with so-and-so. I don't think you could. Whoa! I was smart enough to know on one level what that meant. So she was a master at, there's a term for that, I don't know what it is. I don't like to use this term, but someone told me that a sociopath is someone who, if you're kind to them, they'll use it to hurt you. I don't know, that was certainly pretty...
Certainly manipulative.
Yeah.
What about a file cabinet from your dad?
Oh, yeah, a file cabinet from my dad replaced the room I had no more. My dad drove me into Queens to buy a file cabinet. And that was a beautiful thing for him to do because he was trying to give me some place that could be mine that I could preserve, you know, replacing the room I had no more. You know, that was a pretty, I mean, I kept that file cabinet for a long time. But, you know, here's a guy that was a transition from we would go to Bar Beach and he'd say, oh, they saved our place. Whenever he found a parking place, he'd say, oh, they saved our place. It was a joke, you know. Yeah. So here's a guy that he owned the world in his fantasy. They saved our place. He could take us to Bar Beach. All of a sudden, he's saying, here, all I can give you is this. You know, that was something.
Yeah.
That was something. But it felt bad. And the other line, of course, from that is a Bible from my sister as we stumbled out the door. And my sister did another ritual with me. God bless them. Thank God. I was so lucky for these people. Because my sister took me to the bookstore on Plandome Road and we bought matching Bibles. And to her, that was that we were still together. We were still a family. And that we didn't have all that nurturing and counseling they have now. The kids are told that parents never divorce their children and all this stuff. So that was a tremendous act of love of my sister to give me a symbol. You know, we still have it. I don't think we have the Bibles, but we still have the symbol, you know, that we belong.
You're still close
to each other, yeah.
So let's listen to Back.
I never did pay you back for taking all my hard-earned pay, for wrapping your binoculars around my neck, chasing all my friends away, for handing out matches at my birthday party, putting gunpowder on my shoes, for telling me I'd never learn how to win when you were all that I had to lose. I still remember that Saturday morning when your dolls came filing in. Venus ran in with her dress on fire, begging you to take her in. She said my whole world is inside out and the sky is beginning to crack. You ran for the door, but you didn't realize it was padlocked from the back. You were cornered by the beast. I saw you going down. It was then that I got free. But I have to wonder now, sitting by the rusty cage, waiting for the very last breath. What's the point of being saved if I'm the only one left? Thank you.
Is this song about how your mother seriously injured your father with her attacks, but how you survived?
You should leave your brain to science. Yeah, I guess we got there. I think that's true. I think this song is one of the least modified, quote, improved, unquote, because it's so basic, trying to evoke. My mother told me that she sat in the sewing room. The father had left already and gone to the Midwest, and she was left to clear out what she wanted from this house, which has already been sold. And she was thinking, what'll I take with me? What'll I take with me? She was crying, what do I take? What do I take? What should I take with me? You know, here, what should I take? And she said, I finally realized I will take me with me. So that was, in a sense, her self-survival, self-preservation. And looking back, she had a beautiful, tremendous life for the next 40 years, with lots of happiness and lots of love and lots of creation. But I think for her, that was that moment of well, obviously, you know, the love letters were up in my room, you know, but she took me with me. She took herself with her. And that meant a lot to me, and sort of like my mother, looking back over the years, you know, just to my own self, just don't forget to take yourself with you, you know. It's easy. I mean, I think of how many suicide people don't have that message, you know, of taking themselves with them. And of course, the next childhood that I was in was really very, very, very happy. And that was the child that I was the father. I was the father in that one, you know. Mm-hmm. But I was the kid too. I mean, I think one of the reasons I was so popular as a dad in the neighborhood was because I was like a kid, but I had money and I could make rules. So they loved me for that. You know, they're the neighborhood kids because I wanted to play so much and be one of the boys, which I was.
Well, our time is running out. Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
After all that talking? Well, when I grew up, I always wanted to be somebody. I wish now I'd been a little more specific. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
I watch you paddle this invisible river's run. It's Sunday morning, you are my 7-year son. I want to tell you just where I've come from. These words will find you if someday I cannot come. One more life for Mario, a a trusty bike in space.